We begin the Gemara today on Daf Membeis Amid Aleph, right at the beginning of the Amid, the Mishnah. Zok Teilige Mishnah, HaMafkid Moi Seitzach Haveiroi. A person gives a pekadon of money to his friend. So what did he do with it? Sararon, he tied it up in a bundle or in a wallet or whatever it is. Vev Shilon La'achayrev, and he threw it over his back. And that's how he was keeping it with him. Or he gave this money to his children, his son or daughter, that are ktanim, and then he closed the door of the house, but not properly, so these children could leave. Chayiv, so he's going to be chayiv for whatever happens to this, because he didn't guard it properly as shemrim are supposed to. There's a certain level of negligence here, so he's chayiv for this. But if he did guard it properly, then potter. Then it'll be potter. And the Gemara is going to discuss exactly what it means to guard properly the money that you get as a pekadon. Okay, so the Gemara starts with the first point. It said in the Mishnah, the person took the money and he tied it and he put it in a bundle in his back. So the Gemara asks on this, the Mishnah says the rule here that you didn't guard it properly. You gave it to little children and you didn't lock the door properly. So it's understood that you're responsible for what happens. But Ella, Sararan, if you tied up the money, and then Vev Shilon La'achayrev, and you're keeping it with yourself, and you throw it to your back. So why is that not good? My have a little mevad. What better could you do to guard it that it shouldn't get lost or stolen? Amar Rava said, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak said as follows. Amar Kra, the pasuk says regarding Ma'aser Sheni, when you exchange your produce for money and you're carrying it up to Yerushalayim. So it says V'tzarta kesef biyadecha. You tie the money and you're holding it in your hands. What this means is, even though you tied it up, but don't throw it to your back. If you want it to be safe, hold it in your hands. So if you're holding someone's pekadon and you throw it to your back, so it's safe to some degree, but not enough. If you want it to be really safe, you have to hold the money in your hands. So now in connection to this, the Gemara is going to bring other statements that Rabbi Yitzchak said. Person should always have the money that he owns. He should have it available for him to use, to spend, to buy. It says here that the money should be available in your hands. What Rashi says here, what he means to say is that if a person has money, don't put it all into the bank or give it all to someone in a place or in some savings that you're not going to be able to take it out and buy. If you need something, if a good deal comes right away, you should have always certain money, cash at hand, available if there's a certain deal that you'd have to have the money. Similar, Rabbi Yitzchak said regarding this, good advice regarding what a person should do with his money is, you should always divide it into three. Shlish bekarka, a third of your money you should hide in the ground. Shlish beprakmatya, a third of the money as an investment in business. And shlish tachas yadai, a third of your money keep cash at hand. So like I said, if something comes around and you have to have money available for something to buy for a profit, you should have money available. Rabbi Yitzchak, another thing Rabbi Yitzchak said, Ein habracha mitzuya, the bracha in your possessions is only found ela bedavar hasomi minayin, only in something which is concealed from the eyes. Shenema, as the pasuk says, Yitzav Hashem mitcha sabracha basamecha. The Eibusher will command his bracha where basamecha. Basamecha simply means your storehouses or your silos. But he's teaching basamecha also from Lashon Samoy, which means something which is covered, concealed from your eyes. Similar, Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, Eina bracha mitzuya ele bedavish eina ayin sheletes by. The bracha is only found when the eyes of people are not upon it. Shenema Yitzav Hashem itcha sabracha basamecha. He brought the same pasuk and he's teaching itcha basamecha that if it's with you, if it's hidden away, then there's no. In Pashtus, it seems from the Gemara that the reason over here for this is because there shouldn't be any ayin hara. People shouldn't see it, no ayin hara, and then there's a bracha in what you have.
So Sabris is saying two different things. One is saying you should have your money ready. One says you should.
No, but even the money ready doesn't have to be flaunted. It should still be samim and ayin. Tana Rabbanan, another thing the Gemara says, Ha'hailach lamed is garnai. A person that's going to his granary and he's going to measure to see exactly what it is, how much he has. So Omer on his way he says, Yiratzim ufanecha Hashem Elokeinu. May it be the will of Hashem. Shetishlach bracha b'maisi yedenu. That the Eibusher should send a bracha in the work of our hands. His chalamod, when he begins to measure, Omer, so then he says a bracha. Barach hasheleach bracha b'kri hazeh. Mentioning the Eibusher for sending a bracha in this kri. So this bracha of Baruch HaShileach, some say that this is a bracha that said B'loi Shem U'Malchus. You just say Baruch as it says it here in the Gemara. But there are other poskim that say that this is a bracha that's actually said B'Shem U'Malchus. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. So Rashi says in one place. And here we're talking about a person that's coming to measure his geiren to see exactly how much maestros he has to give. Maestros he can't give just by estimation, it has to be a tenth. So you have to estimate exactly. It has to be not estimate, you have to measure exactly, that is. So that's where you make this bracha. And the schus of the bracha, it comes from the fact that you give the maestros. Now, modad v'achakach birich, if you measure what you have, and then afterwards you want to come and bench, hadei zat tefillah shav. You bench then, this is a tefillah shav. The tefillah is not going to have the effect. Why? Because similar to what we said before regarding the bracha, where does a bracha come? The bracha is not found loy bedava hashokol, not with something that you weigh, v'loy bedava hamadud, not with something that you measure, v'loy bedava hamani, and not in something that you count, elo bedava hasami min ha'ayin, and only at something that is concealed from the eye. Shenema yitzav Hashem mitcha sabracha ba'asamecha. So there are some Rishonim that say that when the Gemara here says that if you make the bracha after you measure that it's a tefillah shav, it's not referring to the bracha of Hashalech, Baruch Atah Hashem Hashalech, bracha b'kriya zeh, because that bracha actually is in connection to the maestros that a person gives. And if he's saying this bracha and he's getting the bracha because of the maestros that he gave, when you give maestros, you have to measure to know exactly how much maestros to give. But what it's saying is the hiratzen. The hiratzen that it said that a person says when he's hoylech lamod is garna, it's that hiratzen, which is a tefillah. So that tefillah should be said before you go and measure and not after. If you say it after, then the tefillah doesn't have any effect. Shmuel said, going back to what it said in the Mishnah, how do you safeguard money? So Shmuel says, Ksofim elam shmir ela b'karka. The only way to keep money safe is in the karka. And here we're talking about money in those times where money was actual silver coins. So where's the safest place to keep these silver coins? You bury it in the ground. Amar Rava, but Rava says, Shmuel will agree though, and this we're talking about a person that gets a pekadon, and he wants to keep it safely, but if he got it be'erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes, he got this pekadon from someone Friday afternoon, right before Shabbos, bein hashmoshes. So now you're keeping it for this person, you don't have time to bury it in the ground. So Chachamim did not say that you must go and bury it right away. No, it's right before Shabbos, you can keep it in your house. However, Vishal Matzah Shabbos, Shir Lemikberino, but if soon as Shabbos ends and you don't go and bury this money right away in the ground and you wait until the amount of time that it takes to bury it, V'loi Kavrino, and you didn't bury it in the ground, Mechayiv, and then someone comes and steals it, you're going to be responsible. You should bury it right away. But there's an exception to this as well. V'it Sorbe Merabbananu, if the one that gave you this money to keep for him was a Talmud Chacham, so then you don't have to bury it right away in the ground right after Shabbos. Why? Because then the person that's keeping the money thinks to himself, maybe this money that he gave me right before Shabbos, he's a visitor here and he has this money with him, but maybe he's going to need the money right after Shabbos because he has to buy himself some wine for Havdalah. So I shouldn't bury the money for him right away. Let me keep the money available for him. He might need it for Havdalah. So then if you don't bury it right away, you're not going to be responsible if it gets stolen. And you can wait, according to some Rishonim say, you can wait until tomorrow morning. This is Rashi's pshat here in the Gemara, but the Ravid here is not good. It's these few words here in the Gemara. And he says that when it says, Vitzur b'merabbananhu, what the Gemara means to say is, if the person that's holding this money as a pekadon in his hand, if he's a Talmud Chacham, then the moment Shabbos ends, he doesn't have to go and bury it in his ground. He can first make Havdalah, and after he makes Havdalah, then he goes and buries it. Gemara goes back here to the point about that the only place where it's safe to keep money is to bury it in the ground. But now, there are these people that have these iron sticks that they go and they stick into the ground and they're able to feel where the ground is soft and where money is hidden there. Elam shmira, so you can't bury it in the ground anymore. So where's the shmira? Ela b'shmei kaira, in the roof, in the attic. What?
Beams.
In the
beams.
In the b'shmei kaira, in the beams. Okay, in the beams, in the roof. But then the Gemara says even that now is not good anymore. Now there's prumoi that break open and look over there. They break open the roof to see if there's money there. You have to keep the money between the wall. Those times the wall was built. There was the outer wall and the inner wall, and in between there was space. And over there in that space, in the walls of the house, that's where you hide the money. Rava says, Shmuel will agree and say that b'kaisel, you could put the money in the wall. just hide it inside the wall, even if it's not mamish in between the two walls that was just described. But inside the wall is a place that Shmuel said before you should hide it in the ground. But Shmuel says if you put it inside the wall, it's also safe. Now, now that there are people tfuchai, they tap the wall, they feel the wall, and they feel if it's empty, or they can feel if there's money inside there. You have to put it inside the wall, but not higher up. You have to put it all the way low down by the wall, by the tefach that's near the ground, or all the way on the top by the wall near the roof. Over there is a place where they don't tap around, they don't feel around, and over there the money, you keep it there, it's safe. Okay, you see over here from the Gemara, the Rishonim, there's a big discussion over here, the Rishonim, about all this, how this works in Chalal, in all time periods, about where you keep money, where it's safe. Is this apply even Bizman Azeh, that you must bury money in the ground? So the Rishonim say that it's even from the Mishnah, it's mashmad, you don't have to bury money in the ground necessarily. The Mishnah's lashon was, you gave it to your children and you didn't lock the door properly, and therefore you're responsible. From the Mishnah, it's mashmad, if you would have locked your door properly, after you gave it to your children, it's okay. So the Rishonim say that you see here from the lashon of the Gemara keeps on saying v'ha'idna. It depends on the place and the time period, the ganovim, and you have to be aware of that and you have to guard it properly. But in a regular time period, you can keep the money somewhere in your house and you don't have to be worried about it. Ravache Breder Rav Yosef asks Rav Ashi regarding what it says here that you bury the money in the ground. How deep in the ground it has to be buried? So now Hasam Tanan, there's the Mishnah that it says in Masechta Pesachim regarding Pesach like this: that chametz shenaf la'olav mapelis. If you had chametz and a wall collapsed upon it, hareyu k'mavur, it's under these bricks of the wall. It's like it's already gone from the world. It's like you burnt it up already. It's not there. You're not over on Bal Yirah and Bal Yamatzah. So now, how high does the pile of bricks on this chametz that's kemavur have to be? So Rav Shimon Gamliel explains that it has to be kol she'ein hakel of yachal lachapes achrav. Has to be that it's deep enough under this wall that collapsed here that the dog cannot go and find it. And how deep is that? And we learned kama chafisas hakelav. How deep how far does a kelav will be able to get it? Gimel tfachim, the amount of 3 tfachim. If it is 3 tfachim, then the dog will not be able to get it. Now, just to stamp the pshat over there regarding that Indian of chametz, but pashtus in the Gemara, it looks like that it's saying that when it's under, then the chametz is there, and it's under this wall. You're not over, not on Bal Yirah, not on Bal Yamatzah, even Menatayra. Bal Yirah, it's understood you're not over because you can't see it, and it's not something that you can reach b'chlal. But it's a chiddush over there. You're not over Bal Yamatzah either. But there are many that say, and this is the way it's paskin, I think in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch as well, that you have to be mevatlet because Menatayra you would be over. After you mevatl it, and then there's still a takonim derabanan to do bedika and get chametz out of your house, even after you mevatl it, that takonim derabanan does not apply if it's in a place where the dog can't reach it. That's what we're talking about. Only the issa derabanan. Okay, so that's what it says regarding chametz. So it has to be 3 tfachim deep. Hacha mai. So the question is over here when it says you have to bury the money in the ground, how deep does it have to be? Me being on shloish tfachim, does it have to be 3 tfachim in the ground like the chametz? Or it doesn't have to be that deep. Amalei, so Rav Ashi answers, Hasam mishum reiche. Over there, the point is that the dog shouldn't be able to smell this chametz. So being a gimel tfachim, so it has to be 3 tfachim. Hacham mishum michsuya me'ena. Here, the main point is it should be covered from the eye. So let be in a gimel tfachim. It's not necessary to bury it 3 tfachim. So v'kama, how much do you have to bury it in the ground? Amar Afram misichra tefach. Just 1 tefach thick, deep. That's enough to bury the money in the ground. Okay, the Gemara is bringing a bunch of different stories regarding the responsibility of a person that has a pekadon in his possession. Hahu gavre, there was an individual, the afkid zuziga b'chavre. He gave money to his friend to keep for him. What did he do with the money? He went and he put it in this little hut that's made from willow. Rashi says this is a hut that they made for these people that were out there in the field capturing birds, hunters, and they lived in these small willow huts. Now, this place to put money there, so as we see here in the Gemara, it's a place that's considered to be safe from ganovim, because a ganav doesn't assume that there's any money there, so he's not going to come to steal the money from there. On the other hand, though, it's not safe from a fire. It's a place which very easy that a fire could come and burn this place and burn the money as well. And what ended up happening? Ignav. The money got stolen from there. So is the shomer responsible for this geneva here? Rav Yosef says, even though putting money in this place, for Ganovim, it's a safe place. As I mentioned, Ganovim don't know that there's money in such a place. But le'inyan nura pshiyusihi. Placing money in such a place where it's such a flammable, willow, hot, so that's a pshia, it's negligence. Not a place to put your money. So have it chilase b'pshia. The fact that you put it there, so there's a pshia that you put it there because it could get burnt. But the seifa b'inus, what ended up happening is there was an inus, the ganav stole it. And in such a case, if it started off with a pshia, chayev, you're responsible for this. And Taisus of here adds, and something Taisus says in a few places in Shas, that the concept of tchilasa b'pshia v'seifa b'inus is only if the pshia that happened, the inus that happened in the end, even though in the end there was an inus, that the Aganav stole it, and a Aganav usually doesn't realize there's money there, and that's considered to be an Einus, but the Einus was only able to happen as a result of your Pshia. It's because of your Pshia that the money was available for the Ganav to take. But if it's a Einus that happens in the end, that has nothing to do with your Pshia. We learned about this in the Gemara before, when you allowed the animal to go out in a swamp, and then it just died there, naturally. So the Gemara, they said, wherever it would have been, it would have died. It would have been in the house, it would have died. It would have been here, it would have died. That kind of Einus has nothing to do with your Pshia. Over there, that doesn't apply. Now, for Ikadamri, there is another version of what Rav Yosef said. He paskin the exact opposite. Even though there was negligence here, because you put it in a place that it could get burnt. But le'inyan gamvi, for someone to come and steal it, nitirusi, it's a place which is guarded. So therefore, tchilase b'pshia, the seife b'inus. You put it in a place in the beginning it was negligence, but then in the end it got stolen, and that's an inus potter. You'll be potter for this. Now what's the halacha? Ve'ilcha said tchilase b'pshia, the seife b'inus. In the pshia in the beginning and the end there was an inus chayiv. You are going to be responsible for this. Another story the Gemara says, Ahu gavre, the afkid zuziga b'chavre. Person gave money to his friend to keep for him. Amalei comes back and says, Havli zuzoi, give me back my money. Amalei, so the Shemer says, Lo yadayna eicha esvinu. I don't know where I put it. Also, they came to ask Rava about this. Is this a pesheya? Is he responsible for this? On Malay, so Rava says, Kol lo yataina. Any shemer that comes and says, I don't know where I put this money, pshiyusihi. That itself is a negligence, that you forget, you don't know where you put the money. Zilshlim, so you have to go and pay this for this money.
What's the shayla?
It's a davar apashit, that he's a pesheya. He has no clue, he doesn't remember where you put the money. Yeah. So there was a story with a person, the afkid zuziga b'chavre. He gave money to his friend. What did the person do with his money? Ashleminu le'ime. So he gave it over to his mother to keep for him. And what did his mother do with it? Va'isvino bekartelisa. She put it in a box, or I think on another place Rashi says in a chest, okay, in a jewelry chest, or in a chest that you keep money there. But what happened? Ve'ignav. It got stolen. We learned before in the Gemara, where do you put money in the ground? So she put it in a chest and it got stolen. So now who is going to be responsible for this? Omar Rave, so Rave said, how should we paskin over here regarding this case? So seemingly we should say to this Shaimer, you pay for what happened here. Why? So Rashi brings because of what we learned before in the Gemara, Shaimer Shemasa l'Shaimer Chayiv. You were given the money and you're not supposed to give it to someone else. You gave it to your mother. So you're going to be responsible for what happened to it. So you should go and pay. But he's going to say, no, in this case, the halacha of Shem Shemasa L'Shem, it doesn't apply. Why not? Because Omar, he'll say, we learned already before about this, Kolam Mafkid, anytime you give a pekadon to somebody, Al Das, Ishtoi Ubanav Hu Mafkid. It's with the understanding that this person is going to safeguard it himself, for his family, his wife, his children, and his mother. The people that live with him, they're going to also, are included, and they're also trusted to guard it for the owner. So therefore, it's not a fact that he gave it to his mother. There's no negligence here. Now, on the other hand, zili shlimi. So then we should tell the mother that she should pay for this. Why did she put it in a chest? She should have hid it in the ground. So Amra shall answer and say, Lo yamali delavdi deininu. He didn't. My son that gave me this money, he didn't tell me that it's not his money. That he has this as a pekadon, the ikbarino, that then I would go and bury it in the ground. I thought it was his money, so I keep my jewelry, my valuables in a chest, and I got money from my son. I put it together with all my valuables. I didn't think I should bury it in the ground. So the mother's claiming she's also not negligent about this. So now we should turn back to the son, to the Shomer himself. Name Malay, so we should say to him, Amayle Amrislo. So why didn't you tell your mother that this money you're giving her is not your money, it's a pekadon for someone else, so she should know to bury it? Omar, so the son will say, no, I didn't tell my mother because I thought, kol shekain, the chiyaminula, the didin, if I give the money to my mother and I tell her that it's my money, tfeim is darabahu. I think that she will actually be more careful with the money. If it's my money, she cares more about it than if it's a pekadon, if it's someone else's money. So I thought that that's actually better. So each one of them are claiming that they're not responsible. There's no level of negligence here at all. So the Gemara says, yeah, and Chanami Elam Aravis, so Ravis says that we can't be Machayev either one of them. So Mishtabe Ihu, so the Shomer himself, he comes and swears, the Hani Zuzah Shlomin Eliyimeh. He swears that he gave it to his mother, and that he's allowed to do. He's allowed to give it to his mother. As we said, anyone in the house is included in the people that are trusted to guard it. So he says he gave it to his mother. And then Mishtabi Imei, and then the mother will come and swear, Dahani Zuzi, Sevinu Bikar Telisa, that she placed the money together in the chest, together with all her other valuables, and Ve'ignov, and it got stolen. And she did it in a way that there was no negligence on her behalf, as the Gemara described before. Or Pater, or Petiri. They're both going to be Pater for this. Another story that happened, Ahu Apetrupe de Yasmi. There was an Apetrupis, a caretaker of Yisaimim, Ketanim, that, so he went and the Zav and Lahu Turele Yasmi. He bought for the Yisaimim an ox. What did he do with this ox? The Yisaimim obviously are not taking care of this ox themselves. Or Masr lebakra. He gave it over to a herdsman, I think that's a translation, yeah, for a person that takes care of animals. So Lehavale Kochivishini. It turned out that this ox had no teeth at all, and it's not able to eat. And this ox is there by this bakra, together with all the other animals, and it wasn't eating at all. Oh, miss! And then it just ended up dying. So now there was a huge loss here for the Yisaimim, what it seems like happened here. So now who's going to be responsible here for this loss of the Yisaimim, that this ox had no teeth and it died? So Rami Bachame says, let's see. How should judges paskin over here? Who is the one that's responsible here? Are we going to say that the one that's negligent here is the caretaker, the Apetrupis? We're going to tell him, you go and pay. You bought such an ox that has no teeth for the Yisaimim, it can't eat and it dies. So Omar, the Apetrupis will answer, I bought it, but another bakri masarte. As soon as I bought it, I can't take care of such an animal. I gave it over right away to this herdsman that he should take care of it. So therefore, it's his responsibility. He's the one that's negligent. He should see if it's eating, if it's not eating. Okay, so Apetrupis says it's not. I'm not negligent here at all. He shirks this responsibility. Now, name a leila bakra. On the other hand, so we turn to this herdsman and we say to him, Zil shlim. You pay for the death and the loss that the Yisaimim have here. So Amar, he's going to say, no, I'm not negligent either. Anna bahadi ture kimte. I'm a herdsman. I have a lot of animals, and I got this animal from you, and I place it together with all the other animals in the barn. Uchle shadoi le, and I bring every morning the food for all the animals. Lehavi adina de loyachal. I didn't realize that it wasn't eating. It's not something that I was able to pay attention to. It's together with all the animals, and I didn't see specifically this animal that it's not eating. So it's not considered to be any negligence on my behalf. So the Gemara asks him this. No, one second. What kind of bakra are we talking about over here? This person, this herdsman taking care of these animals. Mechti, let's see. Bakra shem misacha de yasmiho. This is a person that's paid for this job. See, he's not just a shem mechinam that's only chayav for stam pshia. He's a shem misachar. If he's a shem misachar, so then he can't just say, I'm placing this animal amongst all the other animals, and I don't have to pay attention specifically whether this animal is eating. This bakra, he does have to pay specific attention to see if the Yisaimim are losing here because this animal is not eating. So the one that is responsible is the bakra, because he didn't pay attention like a Shem Esachah should to see if it's eating or not. So now, why did Rami Bachama do this? Why did Rami Bachama say that who should we obligate here to pay? We should obligate the Bakra to pay. So the Gemara says like this: Hachanami, you're right. Really, the Bakra is Hashem Esacha. He's responsible. But over here, the story was a little different. The story over here was the Lekib say to the Yasmi. Here, the discussion, and when Rami Bacham was trying to figure out who's going to be responsible, he wasn't trying to figure out who's going to be responsible for the loss that the Yisaimim had, because the Yisaimim actually, in this case, did not have any loss. Why not? Because the Ashkechul L'Marei de Tura, the Yisaimim, they found the one that sold the ox, the seller of the ox. They went back to him, V'shakal Yasmi Zuzimine, and they told the seller of the ox, he sold us an ox for top dollar, and it turned out that it has no teeth and it's not able to eat, and it died. So they said it's a mekach tos, and they got the money back from him already. So that's not the issue over here. So what is the issue here? The seller of the ox is the one that's saying that he wants to be reimbursed over here for this ox died. Why did the Bakra allow the ox to die? That's what he's tining over here. So it's the seller of the ox that wants to be reimbursed in this. As Gemara explains it, Elo man katoin, who's the one that's demanding to be reimbursed? Mare de tura katoin. The owner, the seller of the ox, he's coming and saying, it was a mekach tos, I had to give back the money, but you should have notified me right away that this ox is not eating and give it back to me. That's he's the one that wants his money back, or to be reimbursed for this ox that died. You should have let me know. You should have let me know about what happened here, that this ox is not eating. So the Gemara asks, what kind of a taina does he have? The seller of this ox, he's saying, you should have let me know that the ox is not eating and it has no teeth. Why wouldn't you let me know? Why would you have to know? Made the yoda. You sold this ox. You don't know that it doesn't have any teeth. So why is it anyone else's responsibility to let you know about this? Made the yoda the mekach tosav. You know that this whole sale was a mistake here. So the Gemara answers, no, actually he was not aware of this at all. Why not? We're talking here about an ox merchant. He's a what? Middleman. He's a middleman. He's not someone that owned this ox for an extended period of time, and he was able to see that it doesn't have any teeth. This is a middleman that he buys and sells. He buys and sells right away. So therefore, he had no idea that it had no teeth, and the one that bought it and then allowed it to die. So, and then now it's a mekach tos, and the seller ends up losing his money. So he has a taina. Why didn't you let me know right away that it doesn't have any teeth? So hilkoch. So therefore, his taina. So now the safsira, this ox seller, his taina is to the bakra, to the one that was the herdsman, the one that was taking care of these animals. He's saying to him, why didn't you let me know right away that it wasn't eating? Okay, so now the Gemara says, Hilkoch, now what happens is as follows. Mishtaba iu deloya v'yoda. The safsira, this middleman that sold it, he swears that he had no clue that it didn't have any teeth. So it's not something that he knew already before. He swears that he did not know. And then Mishalem Bakra, this herdsman that had the animal in his possession, he is going to have to pay. But he doesn't have to pay full price though. He has to pay Dmei Basar Bezoil. He's going to pay only a cheaper price of this loss of this animal, of what the value of this meat is. And what's a cheaper price? The cheaper price is 2/3 of its value that it usually is in the market. Now, why do you pay a cheaper price? So Rashi over here says the reason why you pay a cheaper price is because in the end of the day, this bakra wasn't completely negligent, because he had this animal amongst the other animals and he gave it food every single day. He just didn't realize that this specific animal wasn't eating, so it's not 100% a negligence on his part. So therefore Rashi says we make up shorter. He's not going to be completely potter. On the other hand, he's not going to have to pay full price either, so he pays 2/3. Rashi says you give all the hide of the animal that's here from the dead animal, you give back to the seller, and then from the value of the meat, you give him 2/3. That's Rashi's pshat. But the Rishonim ask on this that it's hard to understand, because before the Gemara said that he's a Shem Esachar. If he's a Shem Esachar, he should have paid attention specifically to see if this animal is eating or not. So what room is there for a compromise here? Why is Rashi saying that he only pays 2/3? That's the question that the Rishonim ask on Rashi. Taisa says a little different. Taisa says that the reason why he only gets 2/3 is because what would this seller himself do with it? Exactly, it's not worth it. What would he do with it if he would get it back? If you would let him know right away that it's not eating, so what is he going to do with it? An animal that can't eat, all you could do with it is shecht it right away and eat it. So an animal you have to shecht right away, it has less of a value. You can't sell it for anybody to use for plowing in the field. So therefore, it's only worth 2/3. That's why you pay that amount. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure what the answer for Rashi's pshat, but that's what Taisus over here says. Another detail Rashi points out over here, that even though this Din Torah started off seemingly there's a relationship here between the Yisaimim and the Bakra. The apotropos of the Yisaimim is the one that hired this herdsman to take care of their animal. But in the end, the one that's actually coming and demanding money from this Bakra is not the Yisaimim. It's the original seller, even though really l'chatchila they have no relationship with each other. So Rashi brings from the Mishnah we learned before, when you had a case of a renter and that renter gave it out to another borrower, that according to Rabbi Yosi, which we paskin like, he says that the borrower is the one that has to pay to the original owner, even though there was a person in between. That's similar over here. Okay, there's one more story over here the Gemara says. Let's finish to the Mishnah. Zakta Gemara, Ahu Gavra. There was a person, the Afkid Kshusa Gabe Chavre. He gave haps to his friend to hold on for him, which is used in making beer. Now this Shomer himself had his own amount of a core of his own hops. Now, Amalei L'Sarse, so this shomer tells his worker, Mehai Rami, go take from these hops, in other words, what's his own. Go take from my hops for the beer that we're making. Now, what did the worker do? He went and took from the hops that belonged to someone else, that he was just keeping as a pekadon. That's what was placed into the beer. So now, if you used someone else's hops for your beer. So Rav Amram says, how are we going to paskin over here? Are we going to obligate him to pay? So, are we going to tell the shomer himself, you pay for what happened there, that you used the other person's hops for your beer? Omar, he's going to say, it's not my fault. I didn't do this. I told my worker, I said to him, take from these hops, which are mine. He's the one that is negligent. He went and used a different hops that I never told him to. On the other hand, you're going to tell the worker he's the one that's negligent. He has to pay the owner for taking the hops that he wasn't supposed to. Omar, the worker will say, I'm not negligent either. Because he didn't clarify to me, take only from these hops and not from these. I didn't know that there's a difference. I didn't realize that I'm taking from something that doesn't belong to him. He should have made it, it's his responsibility to make it clear to me that this is his and this is not his. Okay, so now the Gemara says, but the shah shir la suyule, if it was a case where the owner's hops are right there in his house, that's available right near, and the other hops that he has, that it's a pakadon, that he's keeping for the other person, he kept it further away somewhere in a storehouse. And when you sent your worker to go get the hops, you see that it took him a while, that he went further, and he's not bringing you from your own, he's bringing from the other persons that he gave you. So then it's clear that you realize that he's taking from the other person's hops, and it's your fault that you allowed him to go and take from the other person's hops. Okay, so therefore in such a case, the owner is going to be responsible because he's aware that he went to take from the other persons. But the Loi, Gemara asks it how, but the Loi Shah, if it was no time, and the owner should not be responsible because he doesn't realize that his worker went to take from hops that's not his. But the question is, soif my pseidik. In the end of the day, what are we discussing here? What loss is there here? What happened over here is, this owner is gaining by using someone else's hops. So now, you used his hops for your beer, so give him back from your hops to him. What's this? So it's exchange. What's the discussion over here? So the Gemara explains, no, the beer, the hops that he used from the other person for his beer, the beer ended up being sour. It wasn't good beer. So he had no gain from the other person. And now he says, I gained nothing from you. I didn't ask my worker to do this. He took from your hops. He made bad beer, and I never asked him to do this. I'm not responsible. And he's not responsible either, so he doesn't want to pay. Rav Ashi says, Bikisi, that the hops that he used from the other person was not the same quality hops that the person owns on his own. His hops were good. The other person's hops were with thorns, and they're not very good hops. So therefore, it's not the same value. So the Gemara concludes, according to Rav Ashi's pshat, you use the other person's hops, so even if it's not as good quality as yours, but you do at least have to pay him that amount of what hops you did use from your friend on that quality, whatever it is. So that you have to give him back. You're not going to have to give him back your good quality hops, but the quality that he gave you, that you will have to give him back.